بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. So continuing Riyadh Al-Saliheen, the shar of Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz and some fawaid from Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen. And today, inshallah, or as of now, I'm going to continue reading the fawaid, the benefits that Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen he brings about hijrah. That the Shaykh he mentions on page 29 the different types of hijrah. He says Aqsamul Hijrah, or 29 in the Arabic book. If it's for the English, I'm not too sure. But 29 in Arabic. He mentions the types of hijrah. الهجرة تكون للعمل وتكون للعامل وتكون للمكان. The hijrah is done because by the action of the action, you make hijrah of an action, or hijrah of certain actions, certain deeds, certain things that are taking place, or hijrah from a person, or likewise from a place. The first type of hijrah is hijratul makan, that a person makes hijrah from a place. And as we read earlier from the Shaykh bin Baz Sharh, hijrah is that a person, that the Shaykh he says here, he increases upon that Sharh. We said hijrah was a person moved from the land of kufr to a land of al-Islam, a land of shirk to a land of tawheed. As for here the Shaykh he says, فأن ينتقل الإنسان من مكان تكثر فيه المعاصي ويكثر فيه الفسوق وربما يكون بلد كفر إلى بلد لا يوجد فيه ذلك. The hijrah is that a person he leaves a place in which there are many sins or many acts of disobedience, disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. Perhaps it's a land of kufr to a land in which that is not found. And the greatest form of hijrah is from a land of disbelief to a land of Islam. وقد ذكر أهل العلم أنه يجب للإنسان أن يهاجر من بلد الكفر إلى بلد الإسلام إذا كان غير قادر على إظهار دينه. That the people of knowledge, and they mention that it's obligatory upon a person to make hijrah from a land of disbelief to a land of Islam if a person is not able to openly make apparent his religion. If a person is not able to openly make apparent his religion, then the scholars they mention upon him, and they do not differ over this, and it's obligatory upon him, this person, to make hijrah. As for if a person is قادر على إظهار دينه لا يعارض إذا أقام شعائر الإسلام. If a person is openly able to practice his religion and make it apparent, and he is not opposed when he establishes the symbols of Islam, then the Shaykh he says, on this specific individual, hijrah is not obligatory upon him. However, at the same time, it's highly recommended for him. بناء على ذلك يكون السفر إلى بلد الكفر أعظم من البقاء فيه. He says, so based off this, we just said, traveling to a land of kufr is greater than staying in it. فإذا كان بلد الكفر الذي كان وطن الإنسان إذا لم يستطع إقامة دينه فيه وجب عليه مغادرته والهجرة منه. So the Shaykh he says, if a person lives in a place of kufr and his land of kufr is his homeland, and he's not able to establish his religion in his own land, then it's obligatory upon him to leave that land, make hijrah from there. Not like how some of the people of Batil they say, and not because of what the people of Batil they say, some of the watered down people, one of them talking about France, and he's, if you don't want to respect the law of the French when it comes to the hijab, then leave. He doesn't mean make hijrah. He means either you respect their constitution, and you respect their laws, and you respect their kufr, and you respect the fact they take off the hijab. If not, you leave. Abadan. The Muslim does not respect kufr or constitutions of kufr. The difference between not opposing or not doing haram in a land and respecting kufr. We don't respect the kufr and respect the laws which oppose the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Shaykh, he says that if a person cannot openly make apparent his religion, or even if that's his land that he lives in, land of kufr, is his land, and he's not able to establish his religion, then it's upon him, it's obligatory upon this individual here to leave and make hijrah. فكذلك إذا كان الإنسان من أهل الإسلام ومن بلاد المسلمين فإنه لا يجوز له أن يسافر إلى بلد الكفر. Likewise, the Shaykh, he says, there's a person from the people of Islam, from the lands of the Muslims. Now pay attention to this, very important. That it is not permissible for this person from the Muslim country who resides in Muslim lands to travel to lands of disbelief. Why? Because the danger upon his religion, the danger upon his morality, upon his mannerisms, upon his akhlaq, because of لما في ذلك من إداعة مالي ولما في ذلك من تقوية اقتصاد الكفار. Why? Because of what's found within that travel to lands of kufr, wasting wealth, no doubt. And likewise, the Shaykh, he mentions your travel to the lands of disbelief from the lands of Islam strengthens their economy. Subhanallah. These are the ulama Ahl Sunnah. Those that say the ulama Ahl Sunnah are weak, or the ulama Ahl Sunnah, they're like this when it comes to the kuffar. Abadan, look at how they speak. With quwwah, with strength and honor. Unlike Ahlul Bid'ah, who watered down for the kuffar, praised the kuffar, lay down for the kuffar. The Shaykh, he mentioned it clearly. From the reasons why a Muslim cannot travel from the lands of Islam to the lands of kufr is to strengthen their economy. Ya Subhanallah. The Shaykh, he says, وَنَحْنُ مَأْمُورُونَ بِأَن نَغِيظَ الْكُفَّارِ بِكُلِّ مَا نَسْتَطِيعُ كَمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. And likewise, we're commanded to enrage the kuffar, anger the kuffar in every way we're able to. Like Allah says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ يَلُونَكُم مِّنَ الْكُفَّارِ وَلْيَجِدُوا فِيكُمْ غِلْظَةً وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. O you who believe, fight those who are close to you from the kuffar, and let them find harshness within you, and know that Allah is with those who are righteous and pious. And the Shaykh, he says, قال تعالى ولا يتأون موطئا يغيظ الكفار ولا ينالون من عدو النيلة إلا كتب لهم به عمل صالح إن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. That he says, a translation of the ayah, or interpretation of the ayah, that nor do they take any step, the Muslims do not take any step in which they enrage the kuffar, nor inflict some harm upon the enemy, except that a good deed is written for them. And indeed Allah does not waste the reward of the good doers. So enraging the kuffar by implementing your deen is a good deed for you. And I remember in one of the khutbah we were in, and the Shaykh was speaking about, and Shaykh Khalid here in Misr, and it stuck to me years ago. This was about maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago. He was speaking about this point here, and he was speaking about the Muslims eating together. And sometimes these type of things enraging the kuffar. They say, look at you, barbaric. If it enrages them, do it. Let them be enraged, let them be upset. Inshallah, for you is a reward. Establish the sunnah, let them get upset. Establish the sunnah, let them get upset. Inshallah, like this ayah in the Quran, لا يتأون موطئا يغيظ الكفار. They do not take any steps in which they enrage the kuffar and inflict harm upon the enemy, except a good deed is written for them. Naam. So the Shaykh, he says, at these next few lines, we're going to upset some weak individuals. So we don't have wala wal bara with them. Obviously, al wala wal bara, when we say wala wal bara, allegiance to Islam and the Muslims. Align yourself with that which Allah loves and you're free, and hate that which Allah hates. Doesn't mean that you go out and start killing and start fighting, because even the enemies have different levels, no doubt. And jihad is only prescribed under the guidance and command of the Muslim ruler. Right? One is not able or not allowed to do it himself. One is not able to kill and take jihad into his own hands, as the Khawarij and people like them, they do. The Shaykh, he says, وَالْكَافِرْ أيًّا كان سواء كان من النصارى أو من اليهود أو من الملحدين سواء تسمى بالإسلام ولم يتسمى بالإسلام الكافر عدو لله ولكتابه ولرسوله وللمؤمنين جميعا مهما تلبس بما تلبس به فإنه عدو. That he says the disbeliever, no matter what kind of disbeliever he is, whether he's a Christian or a Jew or an atheist, whether he ascribes or he calls himself or gives himself the name of Islam, or does not name himself with the name of Islam, the kafir, the disbeliever, is an enemy to Allah, His book, His messenger, to the believers, all of them. No matter how and what he may try to do and say, he's an enemy. And like I said before, the enemies are of different types. The kafir, even the one you're at peace with, you're at peace with him. You don't strike him, he doesn't strike you. You're just with him, he's just with you. But because of his kufr, he's still an enemy. But this is not the same as somebody who you're at war with. Differentiation between these individuals. And not like the Khawarij, like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and these people of bid'ah, and at times Al-Kufr, they do. So the Shaykh, he says, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, فَلَا يَجُوزُ لِلْإِنسَانَ أَنْ يُسَافِرَ إِلَى بَلَدِ الْكُفْرِ إِلَّا بِشُرُوطِ ثَلَاثَةٍ. That is not permissible to travel to the lands of disbelief except with these three conditions. For those who are listening, take notes. Write these three conditions down. Memorize them. And before we get to these conditions, it's important, very important, I want to read to you the speech of Shaykh Rabi' when it comes to hijrah. And this speech of Shaykh Rabi' was said 1426 Hijri, close to 20 years ago. So you can imagine that. Now imagine how the hal, 20 years ago when the people, what state you were in 20 years ago, how life was then in lands of kufr, and how it's progressed so quickly. And when I say progressed, I mean how it's changed. Obviously it's gone backwards, or worse than backwards. And today it's gone backwards to the time of Lut, and worse. Look at the speech of Shaykh Rabi 20 years ago, ulama, and look at the hal today. The Shaykh, he was asked a question. The question was from England. He was asked about the ruling, and I remember at that time, a little bit after that, a lot of people in England didn't like this speech. I used to try and spread it to them, post it on some websites, and they used to always delete it and not like it and not want it to be spread. This speech with that here. He was asked about the ruling on residing in the lands of kufr. And the ruling of those that come to the lands of disbelief and reside in there, those that come from the land of Islam and reside there, and the ruling of taking on their nationality. The British nationality is can be applied to anywhere. Canadian, American, Australian, New Zealand, whatever. So the Shaykh, he said, for those that come, he said, Wallahu a'lam, 90% من الذين يذهبون إلى أوروبا وأمريكا لا من أجل ملاحقة الحكومات ولا من أجل شيء حتى لو لاحقته الحكومة يصبر. The Shaykh, he said, Allah knows best. 90% of those who go to Europe or America, and it's not because of the government chasing them, not because of anything like that. He said, however, even if the government was after them, then he's patient. He said, Ahmad ibn Hanbal لما عذب راح هرب إلى بلاد الكفر. He said, when Ahmad ibn Hanbal was punished, when he was tortured, did he go out and run and try to escape to the lands of kufr? He goes, I'm asking you, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and other than him, then Ibn Taymiyyah, لما آذوه وآذوه وسجنوه هل هرب إلى بلاد الكفر? When they harmed Ibn Taymiyyah and they harmed him and they imprisoned him, did Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullahi alayh, did he flee to lands of disbelief? بارك الله فيكم يصبر يعيش في بلدي ولو في السجن خير له أن يذهب إلى أوروبا وأمريكا خاصة وهم لهم نشاط ولهم خطط في تجديد المسلمين في مجتمعاتهم وتنسيرهم وتحويلهم إلى ملاحدة وزنادقة. He said that the Muslim is to be patient. The Muslim is to be patient and live in his own land, even if he's in prison. Then it's better for him than to go to Europe or America, especially that they have now certain activities they're doing and plans and plots they're scheming to try and mobilize the Muslims into their societies and to Christianize them and change them to atheists or heretics. هذه خطط قديمة والآن يطبقونها، ويسعى كثير من دعاة السوء وعلماء السوء إلى تجنيد المسلمين في المجتمعات الأوروبية. He said these plans are old. Now they're beginning to implement them. Many of these callers to evil, these evil scholars today, are striving to try and mobilize the Muslims into the European societies. And I'm going to stop here. I want to mention something. Recently what happened, and everybody spoke about it. Some of the people may know, but majority know that the person who spoke on the khutbah of Yawm al-Arafah, a lot of people spoke about him, were upset. Now, no doubt, that person who spoke was a person of falsehood. Muhammad al-Isa is a caller to unity of religions, a person of falsehood, and a person who Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad refuted over 20 years ago, called him a taghribi, one who's trying to westernize the kingdom, wafaqah Allah, and one who's plotting and planning. He has made much falsehood, no doubt about that. However, sometimes some of the people that refuted him from the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, then the refutations of him were politics. Some of them refuted him with truth, no doubt. Some of the people were from Ahl Sunnah. As for Ikhwan, then they're political. A lot of them. Now, because the Shaykh is talking about du'atul batil, you see the one who he's speaking about, who strive and strove before to try and make the Muslims merge into the European societies in the fatwa of one of the biggest zanadiq of our time. He gave a fatwa. So, we're going to mention him inshallah. But my point here is a lot of the Ikhwanis that spoke, then with them is political. They only spoke, they may have disliked him because of that, but that doesn't really affect them so much. They don't really care that much. Why? Because Muhammad al-Isa is similar to Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Yet most of these Ikhwanis respect and praise Qaradawi and defend him. Most of them Ikhwanis and Qaradawi. And Qaradawi has kufriyat that are beyond Muhammad al-Isa. And they're both people of batil. And they're both callers to unity of religions. My point here is, this one's a personal falsehood. This one's a personal falsehood. However, do not be fooled by Ikhwan or the Hizbis or the Sulis when they come out with the rudud upon this individual, and don't think that they're upon the haqq. Generally, just because they refuted him, when they themselves defend the likes of Qaradawi, the likes of Awda, Salman al-Awda, who himself is calling to internationalizing the Haramain, this Qaradawi who compared Allah to a Jew, this Qaradawi gave fatwa that the Muslims can join the enemy armies of the kuffar. This Qaradawi gave fatwa who used to for years call to unite with the Shia and تقارب بين الشيعة, and he himself sits with Yahud, and he himself is much يعني كفريات and طامات with him. That's why Shaykh Muqbil wrote a book, إسكات كلب العاوي Yusuf al-Qaradawi, silencing the howling dog Yusuf al-Qaradawi. So don't be fooled by the speech of these Hizbiyun. Now let's continue. The Shaykh, he says, we're going to mention, I mentioned Qaradawi for a reason. Qaradawi and Muhammad al-Isa are the same. They're friends with one another. Just after Rabi al-Arabi, the Arab Spring, they met each other and they were hugging each other. There's no difference between them. But the only reason why they refuted Muhammad al-Isa, a lot of them, was because they hatred for Saudi Arabia. Muhammad al-Isa, we hate him. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, we hate him. And we continue. طيب, the Shaykh, he said, فلماذا تذهب إلى هذه البلاد؟ لماذا لا تصبر حتى لو لاحقتك الحكومة اصبر خير لك. He said, why are you going to these lands? Why are you not being patient even if the government chase you? Be patient, is better for you. Many of them, they go to lands of kufr without being chased. يذهب للأكل والشرب ولخدمة اليهود والنصارى في بلدانهم. Subhanallah. He said they go to lands of kufr to eat, to drink, to serve the Jews and the Christians in their lands. ويذل نفسه ويذل الإسلام. He disgraces himself and at the same time disgraces Islam. The Shaykh, he says, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala ta'ahad bi rizqih. Allah promised in the Quran to provide for the people. His provision, He promised them. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. That whoever fears Allah the way He ought to be feared, Allah provide for him a way out, give him a way out, and provide for him from means he can never imagine. There is nothing upon you except to fear Allah Azza wa Jal. The Shaykh, he says, your provisions will come to you from means that you can never imagine. وَلَن تَمُوتَ نَفْسٌ حَتَّى تَسْتَوْفِي مَا كُتِبَ لَهَا. As has come in the hadith, that no soul shall die except that it will take that which was written for it from provisions. No soul shall die except that it will take that which was written for it, يعني from provisions. He said, however, the shaitan يزخرف لهم الذهاب إلى بلاد الغرب ليعيشوا كما يعيش الأنعام في ذل وهوان ثم البلاء والخطر مهدق به وبأسرته. He said, however, the shaitan beautifies for these Muslims traveling to the west, to the lands of disbelief, so they can live there the way the animals, the way the beasts live, in disgrace and humiliation. And after the calamity and danger, the imminent danger surrounds him and his family. Here's the example here. Everybody who's truthful to themselves, this is my speech. Every individual who's truthful to himself here can understand what's to come next. What the Shaykh is saying, either he has a problem in his family, or he sees it with other people, or he has a family who's like this here. The Shaykh, he says, لما يبلغ ابنك 6 سنوات فإن يتعلم that when your son reaches 6 years of age, where does he study? He studies in the schools of the Jews, the atheists, Al-Hanbalī Nasara, the secularists, the Christians. They teach them their religion, their way of life, their customs, their norms, their way of eating, their way of traveling, their adhkar, their du'as, their way of sitting, their version of modesty, their version of being chaste. They teach them their way of life, their language, their what they consider to be tawakkul. يعني at the end of the day, they teach them their aqidah, and they do not differentiate. And then after he says, وأخذ الجنسية الأجنبية الكافرة بدل الجنسية الإسلامية. Then this individual, he takes on the Western, the foreign, disbelieving nationalities instead of the Islamic nationalities. Understand here, we're not speaking about those who were born and raised in that land. We're speaking about those who come from the lands of Islam to the lands of Kufr. Lands of Al-Islam to the lands of Kufr. So by way of this, some of these scholars كفر بها بعض العلماء. Because of this, some of the scholars even pronounce the ruling of disbelief in those who do this. ولا يأخذ الجنسية هذه إلا بعد أن يتأهب بالخضوع إلى قوانين هذه البلاد والولاء والبراء لها. That this individual does not take this nationality except that he prepares himself to submit and to yield to these laws in these lands, and to have wala, allegiance, and bara for these laws. Likewise, he prepares himself. For example, if a jihad takes place, for example, لو زحف الجيش الإسلامي على بلد كافر يواجه الجيش الإسلامي لأنه أصبح جنديا لأعداء الله. That if an Islamic army was to march to lands of disbelief, then this individual would go to fight or to face the Islamic army. Why? Because he's become a soldier for the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal. I want to mention, obviously it's not the case for every single person. Not every single Muslim who goes there is going to join the army or fight for them. Some want to go to jail, some will flee, no doubt. Some won't do it. However, there are a lot that do it, and there are some that join their army, that join their CIA, that join their spy networks. Many people that we know. And the Shaykh is going to give an example. And I will know one that went to Iraq, in California, and he was Iraqi himself. Joined the US Army, got both his legs blown off, and said himself, I had opportunity to go again, I'd go again. نعم. So the Shaykh, he says, ومستعد يمكن يجهزونه لحرب المسلمين في بلدانهم كما حصل في أفغانستان. He said, likewise, he'll be ready, and perhaps they'll prepare him to go wage war against the Muslims in their own lands, as what took place in Afghanistan. They took many of the Muslims to go fight against the Afghanis. And we know plenty from our area in California, from the Afghans, they went alongside the kuffar to go aid them against the Muslims in Afghanistan. Then he says, here's why I mentioned Al-Qaradawi. وصدرت فتوى من بعد علماء السوء أنه يجوز له أن يقاتل المسلمين ليثبت جنسيته ويثبت ولاءه لأمريكا. وهذه فتوى القرضاوي الذي يحتل منصب عظيم عند المسلمين بهذه الفتوى. قاتله الله. He said, and then after, fatwa from some of the evil scholars came, where they claimed in this fatwa that it's permissible to fight the Muslims, to fight against the Muslims. So a person can establish or affirm his nationality, and he can affirm and make apparent his allegiance to America, This was the fatwa of Al-Qaradawi. Qaradawi holds a high position in a rank with the Muslims, some of the Muslims. So for those who got upset at that which took place, then let them also get upset with Al-Qaradawi and free themselves from Al-Qaradawi and pronounce the same ruling they did upon that mubtil upon Al-Qaradawi. Will they do so? Naam. So the Shaykh, he says, كم من الفتاوى الفاسدة نسأل الله العافية الآن. So how many of these fatwa which were corrupt have come from these individuals? Right now you have certain plots and plans and activities established in the West to achieve their goals, to try and تجنيد المسلمين في مجتمعات الغربية, to try and bring the Muslims and to try and make them Muslims to be their soldiers in the Western societies. Naam. So the Shaykh, he says, how then can you, they're going to use you to wage war against the Muslims. And they use that. How many times do they not send people like Malala, this woman going amongst the Pakistanis, promoting feminism and other garbage, using a Pakistani to promote garbage amongst Pakistanis. Then you have another one, Tawakkul Kirman, a Yemeni, A'udhu Billah, who claimed that Shaykh bin Baz is astray and this is astray. This Dalla Mudilla, a stray woman who leads others astray, who is a tool being used by the Masons to go and bring out the Muslimat in Yemen and loosen their hijab and become like her, promoting feminism and garbage. And likewise recently in America, dancing alongside the kuffar, men and women promoting filth to the Muslims. And then you have Ilhan, who's aqrab ila ilhad, Umar, this one who consolidates and makes the Shari'at laws, makes halal that which Allah made haram, and tries to promote her filth amongst the Somali girls, the Somali women. We ask Allah to protect the Muslim women from the plots of the shayateen. This is what the Shaykh is talking about. This is exactly what the Shaykh is talking about. When they come, and she's one who came. These are ones who came. These weren't born and raised in the West. These came from the East to the West. And they use these to go wage war against the Muslim woman in the West. This is exactly what the Shaykh is talking about 20 plus years before it happened. And subhanAllah, the ulama see the fitna before it comes. And the people of bid'ah or the people of fitan only see after it comes. Look at the Shaykh, the insight of the Shaykh, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. So he said, how can you then go when these are the conditions? This is the hal, this is the state of affairs. يجب على المسلمين أن يهاجروا إلى بلدانهم. It's obligatory upon the Muslims to make hijrah, to go back to their lands. إذا سمعوا بمثل هذه النشاطات والمحاولات لدمجهم وتمويلهم في المجتمعات الغربية. Especially when they hear these type of activities taking place, where they attempt to merge the Muslims into their societies, into their Western disbelieving societies. And this was mentioned in Ramadan. This fatwa's answer. You can go back to the lecture أسباب النهوض بالأمة of Shaykh Rabi bin Hadi al-Madkhali, and Shaykh Abdul Aziz al-Bur'i Hafidhullah Ta'ala was present during this question and answer. Now I'm going to go back to Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen's 3 conditions, in which he mentioned the conditions for a person. He said, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, that it is not permissible for a person, a Muslim, to travel to lands of kufr except with these 3 conditions. The first condition أن يكون عنده علم يدفع به الشبهات. That a person, he has knowledge, Islamic knowledge, not that he has knowledge of, he's a doctor in medicine. I'm good, I can repel the doubts. Or I'm an engineer, I can repel the doubts. Because some other people today, they think that righteousness means you're a doctor. Or if you're an engineer, righteous. Or if you have a PhD in something else, you're righteous. No, that's not the case. The righteousness that we're speaking about, the knowledge here, is the knowledge of the deen, the knowledge of the kitab and the sunnah. Why? Because the kuffar, they bring doubts and they try and cast doubts in a person's religion. They try and cast doubts regarding the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They cast doubts regarding their book, meaning the Quran. وَشُبَهًا فِي أَخْلَاقِهِمْ. And likewise they cast doubts when it comes to their akhlaq, their manners, their morals and all of that. Look at the faras of the Shaykh, look at the insight of the Shaykh. It's likewise 30 years ago, 25, 30 plus years ago. And no doubt they do that. And now it's even worse. في كل شيء يريدون الشبهة. In every single affair, they bring doubts. Why? ليبقى الإنسان شاكا متذبذبا. So a person can remain in a state of doubt. Just remain in a state of doubt, just wavering. Not over here, not over, just in the middle, not knowing. And the Shaykh, he said, it's well known that if a person, he doubts the affairs in his religion, in which it's obligatory to have certainty in, then فَإِنَّهُ لَمْ يَقُمْ بِالْوَاجِبِ. Then he'll never in that case carry out that which is obligatory upon him. That if he doubts in affairs in his religion, in which it's obligatory upon him to have certainty in, then this individual will not carry out that which is obligatory upon him. The Shaykh, he says, فَالْإِيمَانُ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْقَدَرِ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ. الإيمان بهذه يجب أن يكون يقينا فإن شك الإنسان في شيء من ذلك فهو كافر. That having iman, having belief in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last day and the qadr, the good and the bad of the qadr, and believing in these things is obligatory. It's obligatory that he has certainty in these affairs. If a person doubts in anything of that, then he's a disbeliever. So the Shaykh, he says, the kuffar, they bring doubts to the Muslims in these affairs. حتى إن بعض زعمائهم صرح قائلا لا تحاول أن تخرج المسلم من دين لا دين النصارى. The Shaykh, he said, to the extent that some of their leaders openly said, openly proclaimed, do not try and make the Muslims leave his religion to become Christians. It's sufficient أن يشككوا في دينه. It's sufficient that you just merely cast doubts in his religion. Because if he doubts his religion, سلبتموه الدين, then you took his religion from him. If you cast doubt in his religion, then you've taken his religion under his feet. This is sufficient, they say. Antum, take him out from this. And this is what they claim, this is what they say. They take him out from this religion which has strength, this religion which overcomes, which has power, which has might, glory, honor. If you take him out from that and make him doubt that, this is sufficient. As for trying to make him become Christian, which is based off of misguidance and stupidity, then the Shaykh, he says that they say, لا يمكن, it's not possible. إن النصارى ضالون, because the Christians are astray. Anybody knows the Christians are astray. With a distorted book, with a corrupted aqidah. نعم. As is come in the hadith, the Christians are ضالون. وإن كان دين المسيح دين حق لكنه دين الحق في وقته قبل أن ينسخ برسالة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن الهدى والحق بما جاء به الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. Even though the religion of the Masih, يعني Isa ibn Maryam, was the truth, but it was the truth during his time, before it was abrogated by the message of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because guidance and the truth is that which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he came with. Naam. And the second condition, that was the first condition, which is that a person must be equipped with knowledge to be able to repel the doubts, because the doubts are many. And today the Muslims fall for every single silly doubt. You come to a Muslim in the university and the kuffar, he says, subhanallah, deen oppresses you. You have to wear a scarf and it's hot outside. And you think it's true, I have to wear a scarf. And they start doubting. Yani the stupidest reasons, silliest reasons today. That's why it's upon a Muslim. It's upon a Muslim to equip himself with knowledge. That's number one. Number two, the second condition, أن يكون عنده دين, because knowledge is not sufficient. أن يكون عنده دين يحميه من الشهوات. That a person, he has a religion, he's practicing his religion. Because some people have knowledge but they don't practice. How many times you see people that have knowledge about Islam, memorize the Quran, know a hadith, but they don't grow their beards, pants below their ankles, and they may listen to music, they may, they're not practicing. A person likewise must be practicing his religion, because practicing his religion protects him from desires. His iltizam or istiqama, his uprightness upon the deen, will protect him from desires. Because a person يدفع به الشبهات الإنسان يدفع به الشبهات الذي ليس عنده دين إذا ذهب إلى بلاد الكفر انغمس. As a person may be able to repel doubts. However, if he doesn't have religion with him, he's not practicing, that when he goes to lands of kufr, then he may be submerged into that which they're into. He may fall into that which they're falling into. Because he finds the beautification of the dunya in front of him. He finds desires all around him. Alcohol, drugs. And today, in most or in a good majority of the United States, weed is legal, marijuana is legal. Recreational purpose, each one to smoke just to chill, just to hang out. It's because you want to. You can do that now. Smoking weed, drinking out, you find that everywhere. Khamar, zina, you find everywhere. The Shaykh is saying this. He says liwat, he says homosexuality, likewise you find that. This was there in his time. And I want the people to ponder over this. This was there in the time of the Shaykh, when it wasn't so widespread in the West as it is today. Today, everywhere in the West you find this, every single place. Alcohol, drugs, fornication, and then homosexuality. The Shaykh is saying this. نعم. وكل إجرام موجود في بلاد الكفر. Every type of criminality is found in the lands of kufr. فإذا ذهب إلى هذه البلاد, يعني the person, يعني if a Muslim truly wants to save himself, is to protect himself from these things and stop lying to himself and say the lands of Al-Islam and the lands of Kufr are the same. Wallahi, they're not the same. Naam, you have evil in the lands of Islam, no doubt. Some are more evil than others, but it's far better. And you're able to establish and practice your deen than in lands of Kufr. The lands where Islam is apparent. Not in lands where, يعني, if you grow your beard, you're thrown in jail and you're killed sometimes, and the Salafis, I'm talking about those lands. I'm talking about the lands of Islam. Where Islam, you're able to openly practice your religion. Now, so the Shaykh is saying, every type of criminality is found in the lands of kufr. If a person goes to them lands and is feared upon him, is feared for him, then he may fall into that which they've fallen into. He may fall into the same dirt. He may fall into the same thing, desires, yani same zina, khamar, homosexuality, criminality that they've fallen into. إلا إذا كان عنده دين يحميه, except if this person has religion and he's practicing the religion, he's upright to protect him. فلا بد أن يكون عند الإنسان دين يحميه من الشهوات. That it's a must that a person has within religion to protect him from these doubts, no doubt. Likewise, when you're in them lands, wallahi, you must protect yourself with ilm and with deen. Because some of the people may have deen, but they don't have knowledge. Some of them may have deen, they may be practicing to an extent, but you find them going to the beach in the lands of kufr, amongst all those naked kuffar, and he's chilling with them. Or a little bit away from them, but his kids are there, they can see them. Instead of finding a different time, because you have knowledge, we know free mixing is haram. Okay, we're not going to go mix with them. Either we'll go at nighttime when there's no naked kuffar, or on a work day when they're not around and far away from them. You have to pick times and be smart in these affairs. Like to these things, that a person must have knowledge and a person must have deen. Because deen, you can be practicing and not have knowledge and fall into certain affairs. And you can have knowledge and not be practicing and likewise fall into certain affairs. That a person must be smart. Likewise, even in some of the lands of Islam, you see the propaganda falling in. And you must, when you see these things, you must hate it with your heart at the very least. Like Shaykh Al-Hanbalī said, it's dangerous upon a person when he sees these things. He just overlooks them and doesn't care, even in his heart. You must hate the evil with your heart. You see the change and how the propaganda is even coming into lands of Islam. And you find here sign after sign after sign, billboard after billboard after billboard, English after English, everything in English. Even now you find some of the words in Arabic script but in English. You find in some of the lands of Islam, ma'al asaf, billboards of families being promoted, or a grandma or a mother or something like this, as if they're European, trying to change the identity of the people. And you find that with these stores that come in, these Western stores, Forever 21, all these stores that come into lands of Islam, you find them promoting their propaganda. And you find a specific kind of people, and you find specific kind of people going to specific stores thinking they've made it to Jannah to an extent. Some of the people, they go to McDonald's in the lands of Islam, and they go there speaking English, they go there with no hijab, they go there speaking like they've reached the Jannah or something like that. And this is the propaganda of the kuffar creeping in, hatta even to lands of Islam, that a person must have knowledge of these affairs, and likewise a person must have religion to protect him from the desires. And we're talking about traveling to lands of kufr, but likewise when you see even lands of Islam, you must protect yourself too. But obviously in lands of kufr, there's no comparison between the two. Now, and the third condition, the final one, is that أن يكون محتاجا إلى ذلك, that a person must actually be in need of going to the lands of kufr. That a person must have knowledge, one. That a person must be practicing the religion, two. And number three, that for his travel to the lands of kufr, it must be for real need. That, for example, he's sick, and he needs to travel to the lands of kufr for a cure. Or he has to go there to learn, and knowledge that cannot be found in the lands of Islam. Or, and he's going there to learn something which cannot be found in the lands of Islam, some type of speciality. So he's going there to learn. أو أن يكون الإنسان محتاجا إلى تجارة, or a person is going there for some type of business. He goes there, he does his business and goes back. The point here is that there must be a true and real need. The Shaykh, he says, لهذا أرى أن الذين يسافرون إلى بلد الكفر من أجل السياسة فقط أرى أنهم آثمون. He said that I see those that travel to the lands of kufr for tourism only. I see that these individuals are sinful. From the lands of Al-Islam to the lands of kufr for tourism, I see that they're sinful. And every single qirsh, like we say, every penny that he spends, or every pence that he spends, or every dime that he spends on this travel, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen says, فَإِنُّ حَرَامٌ عَلَيْهِمْ, that is forbidden for them to do so, and is considered wasting wealth. وَسَيُحَاسَبُونَ عَنْهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, and these individuals who do this will be called to account for this on يوم القيامة. حين لا يجدون مكانا يتفسحون فيه أو يتنزهون فيه، حين لا يجدون إلا أعمالهم، إن هؤلاء يضيعون أوقاتهم ويتلفون أموالهم ويفسدون أخلاقهم. نعم، وربما يكون معهم أوائلهم. That he says that these people that do this, يعني strong speech, subhanallah, that he says when they spend this, and he holds it to be Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, is haram upon them because they're wasting wealth, and they be called to account for this. Whereas they do not go to any of the place to go for, to go for a travel or for a place for enjoyment, except here. These people, the Shaykh, he said, that do this are wasting their time, destroying their wealth, and corrupting their morality, and corrupting their akhlaq, corrupting their manners. Likewise, they may have their families with them. Min ajabin, how strange is it that they may go to the lands of kufr in which you do not hear mu'adhin, you don't hear the adhan in the lands of kufr. Alhamdulillah, here in lands of Islam, our life is based off of the adhan. After the adhan, qadr, I'll do this. After the salah, we'll do this. We hear the adhan, alhamdulillah, you go to the masjid. In the lands of kufr, min ajab, they go to the lands of al-kufr, from the lands of Islam, where they do not hear. They do not hear the sound of a mu'adhin. They don't hear a person doing dhikr. Wallahi, like I said, some of the people, they speak about Egypt in a negative light all the time. All the time. However, in Egypt, you'll travel, you go somewhere to a store, restaurant, or to a mall, you go shopping, you go buy furniture, and you'll spend maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you hear the adhan. MashaAllah, the masjid right next door. Or there's a masjid inside the shopping center. Inside the store where IKEA is today. We're shopping inside of IKEA, we heard the adhan. Inside of IKEA, I went to go pray in the masjid. Or the musalla they had inside of IKEA. Alhamdulillah, ni'mah. The lands of Islam. The khair is still there. One cannot compare between lands of kufr and lands of Islam. That you hear the adhan, alhamdulillah, it's a ni'mah, wallah. That, even at some of the places, some of the stores, the masjid may be a little walking distance away, but you'll find that people are praying behind us. All the employees, a lot of them will put down their mats and they'll pray. You join them in their salah. Wallahi, ni'mah. That's one big thing we don't have to worry about. When you're out, there's a masjid and there's the adhan almost no matter where you go. No matter where you go. Alhamdulillah, ni'mah. Naam. So the Shaykh, he says, and this is the opposite in lands of kufr. He said, you don't hear the muazzin, and you do not hear the dhikr of the one who, the dhikr. Huh? In the lands of Kufr, you hear the dhikr of Kobe Bryant, the dhikr of LeBron James, the dhikr of this homosexual, the dhikr of that homosexual, the dhikr of this, the dhikr of that. Alhamdulillah, over here. And you walk around, you'll see people reading the Quran outside, you'll see this, you'll see that. Alhamdulillah, khair. Khair. The Shaykh, he says, إنما يسمع في أبواق اليهود ونواقيس النصارى. That which you hear in the lands of Kufr, depending upon which land of Kufr is and where you are, is the horn of the Jews, or the trumpet of the Jews, and the bell of the Christians. And then the Muslim goes there and he remains there from his Muslim country. He remains there for some time, and his family and his children and his daughter are all there with him. فَيَحْصُلُ فِي هَذَا شَرٌّ كَثِيرٌ. And because of that, much evil takes place. نسأل الله العافية والسلامة. And that's why I'm going to end with this last point. Inshallah, I'm going to continue next week. We're going to finish off Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen's kalam and then go back to the speech of Shaykh bin Baz. That this affair is not to be taken lightly. When it comes to taking your family to lands of kufr, because a lot of the people that go to lands of kufr, then they glorify the lands of kufr. They glorify the lands of kufr and they praise the kuffar all the time. To the point where they may be jahil of certain affairs and their kids may be jahil, and then praise is settled in their hearts, and they start having love for the kuffar and seeing almost every single thing they do, hatta the way they eat, as being advancement, and the way the Muslims are and the way the Muslims sit and eat as being backwards. And then that becomes a danger. That affects a person up until it enters almost every single joint and part of their body. Nas'Allah salamat wal afiyah. That's why some of the scholars of Algeria, and I heard this, they give fatwa. Such a Shaykh of Firkus, and I heard this from Muhammad Mazyan, that they mentioned that it is not permissible for the Algerian Muslim to speak French with one another. Why? Because this is the language of the enemy. Because the French is the enemy to the Algerian Muslims specifically, because they wage war against them. They try to take their language. They try to take their religion. They killed over 1 million Muslims in Algeria. And then you want to go and speak their language? It's a disgrace. Rather, the Muslims are people of honor. And we throw the language of the enemy behind our backs, not speaking with each other. This is the quwwah of Islam. This is the strength that the scholars of Islam they speak with. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.